Most of you probably noticed, unless you've been completely isolated from the news or social media, that there was a total solar eclipse on Monday that impacted millions of people across the US. The path of totality extended from Texas all the way up through Maine. And solar eclipses are very unique in the fact that they don't occur very often because you have to have the right setup, the right phase, and the right alignment to allow the sun to cast the moon's shadow on the earth. So that's what we saw Monday. The next one won't be until 2045, so not for 21 years, at least a cross-country solar eclipse. But the other thing that's kind of interesting with a solar eclipse is the weather conditions where we have experience here at Vizsla. So I'm going to get into some of that since we had some of our cast sensors in the locations that experienced that total solar eclipse. So here you can see a map of our cast sensors scattered around the US, and apologies for my crude illustration of the path of totality, but you get the point, stretching from Texas on up into Maine. And you can see that several of our cast sensor locations were actually located within the path of totality or very close to the path of totality. So what I want to do here is I want to focus on the road temperature and how those dropped during the total solar eclipse, because that's what we focus on here at Vizsla. So we have several locations in central Texas. We had the average drop of about 20 degrees Fahrenheit with a max drop of almost 26 degrees Fahrenheit. In Ohio, in central and western Ohio, about a 20.5 degree drop on average with a max of about 25. A little bit less in northeastern Ohio with an average drop of slightly less than 20 degrees with a max of about 21. Then getting up into the northeast, you'll notice New York is a little bit different than the others, and I'll explain why here in a little bit. But we had an average drop of about 14 degrees there in central New York around Syracuse with a max of just less than 19. And then up into Vermont, we had an average drop of over 22.5 degrees with a max of over 25.5 degrees. So why was New York different than the other locations? Why were their drops less significant in road temperature? Well, we had some pretty thick clouds moving into the area during the time of the solar eclipse, and you can see clouds elsewhere, especially down into Texas, but the clouds weren't as thick. The deck wasn't as thick, so some more solar radiation was allowed to get in to heat up the pavement a little bit more than you were seeing in New York. So because of that, the pavement just didn't heat up as much in New York as the other locations, so when darkness came in, the temperatures weren't as high and didn't drop off as much due to that lack of solar radiation ahead of time. While in parts of Ohio and New England, you had clearing, you had sunny skies, you had that solar radiation soaking into the pavement, allowing those pavement temperatures to heat up to cause more significant drops once the moon did move across the path of the sun. And here's just one example out of Vermont. To show you how significant of a drop it was, this was one of the more significant drops we saw. So before the total solar eclipse started, we had a pavement temperature reading of about 93.2 degrees. And once the total solar eclipse happened, the pavement temperature quickly dropped off all the way down to 67.6 degrees. So just a cool illustration coming from WX Horizon and how you can see that pavement temperature drop. We wouldn't be able to see this really without having those sensors in the area to get those unique local conditions. So a really cool phenomenon that is the total solar eclipse that happens not that often. So hope you were able to get out and see it if you were in the path of totality. If not, like I said, the next one's in 2045, so a short 21 years until we can do some more analysis with our cast sensors on the next total solar eclipse.